Most people look at the sky and believe that every aircraft is accounted for, that every flight is registered, tracked, cataloged, and recorded by global aviation systems. We trust that the skies are transparent, that commercial aircraft appear on flight trackers, that military jets follow strict corridors, that government aircraft leave official documentation. But that assumption is wrong. Beyond the familiar world of commercial aviation lies something very different. A hidden, unofficial, and deeply obscured network of aircraft operating with almost no public visibility. A network that doesn't appear on flight tracking platforms. A network that uses call signs that vanish as quickly as they appear. A network protected not just by technology, but by policy, secrecy, and geopolitical necessity. This is the Black Aviation Network. It is not one organization, nor one country, nor one program. It is a global cluster of fleets, corridors, special permissions, diplomatic privileges, and shadow operations that allow certain aircraft to move across the planet without the world ever knowing they were there. Some belong to intelligence agencies, some to private companies with unclear ownership, some to military branches operating far outside their home territory. They use transponders that broadcast nothing, routes that appear as blank spaces on aviation maps, clearances that bypass civilian oversight, runways that appear abandoned but are meticulously maintained, hangars with no official designation, airframes registered under shell companies that have no employees, no offices, and no contact information. To the average person, none of this is visible because the global aviation system we know is only the public layer. Behind it is a second layer, a selective system designed to allow certain aircraft to move through international airspace with minimal trace. It is not illegal, it is simply unpublicized. Every country has its own version of this network. Special mission aircraft, transport jets with diplomatic immunity, electronic surveillance planes disguised as cargo carriers, small private jets performing operations that will never appear in any database, helicopters that fly low enough to evade radar coverage, long-range aircraft that utilize little-known refueling points across deserts, islands, and mountains. And then there are the corridors, the secret arteries of the sky, routes reserved for state operations, emergency transit, intelligence transfers, and covert diplomatic movement. These routes are rarely marked, seldom acknowledged, and often known only to a handful of personnel. Yet the Black Aviation Network is not purely operational. It is also technological. There are radar blind spots that still exist today, zones where geography interrupts coverage, regions where surveillance satellites rarely pass overhead, airspace watched by outdated systems incapable of tracking certain altitudes or aircraft shapes. A skilled pilot with the right permissions can step in and out of visibility like slipping between shadows. This does not mean the world is unsafe. It means the world is more complex than we are told. What makes the Black Aviation Network so mysterious is not its purpose, but its scale. The number of flights that leave no trace, the number of aircraft that appear nowhere in public registries, the number of unknown origin airframes photographed at remote airfields, the unusual call signs used only once. Some of these operations support humanitarian missions in unstable regions. Others transport sensitive equipment, confidential personnel, or government delegations. Some are test flights for experimental aircraft. Others move intelligence assets quietly between continents. But the truth remains. There is an entire ecosystem of aviation the world is simply not supposed to follow. The global sky looks open, but it is managed, mapped, but imperfectly, transparent, but only to a degree allowed by those who operate within it. We think the sky is public, but above the world's airways and below its satellites, aircraft move silently, crossing borders and oceans under a cloak woven from secrecy, technology, and necessity. The Black Aviation Network is not a conspiracy. It is a reality. A hidden layer of global mobility built over decades, refined through geopolitics and kept alive by the simple truth that some missions require invisibility. Every day, these aircraft fly right above us. We just never see them, but this is only the beginning of the story. In the mid-2000s, civilian ADS-B tracking systems became accessible to the public. Suddenly, ordinary people could see a portion of the sky once reserved for aviation professionals. They believed they were seeing everything. But aviation insiders knew what the public didn't understand. that ADS-B is not mandatory everywhere, that military aircraft often disable it, and that intelligence flights rarely broadcast anything at all. The public saw a sky filled with flights. They didn't realize how much of that sky was missing. In remote deserts, there are runways built during the Cold War that never closed, because they still serve as refueling and transfer points for aircraft whose missions are never acknowledged. On isolated islands, hangars still hum with activity, though no airline schedules a single passenger flight there. In mountain regions, old military airfields keep their lights on at night, waiting for aircraft that appear from nowhere and leave without record. The pilots who operate these missions are trained not just to fly, but to disappear. They know how to drop below radar horizons, how to use terrain masking to break line-of-sight tracking, how to follow atmospheric layers where detection becomes unreliable. They follow timing synchronized with satellite orbits, passing through gaps where even modern sensors momentarily lose coverage. Aircraft that should be impossible to hide become invisible simply because they know where the cameras aren't looking. Then there are the aircraft themselves. Some look like ordinary business jets, Gulfstreams, Falcons, Challengers, but their interiors are stripped and rebuilt with classified equipment. Some belong to private charter companies that don't advertise, don't have offices, and don't appear in business directories. Their entire identity exists only on paper, often tied to post office boxes or small law firms specializing in anonymity. When these jets take off, they rarely use standard call signs. Instead, they use codes that appear once, then vanish forever. Some are disguised as medical flights. Some mimic cargo operations. Some falsify their aircraft type to avoid attention. And some fly without any identifier at all, slipping between international boundaries on diplomatic clearances that override civilian oversight. Diplomatic flights are one of the deepest shadows in global aviation. They cannot be inspected. They cannot be delayed. They cannot be searched. Their cargo cannot be questioned. Their purpose cannot be challenged. With the right diplomatic code, an aircraft becomes a ghost with full legal protection. But even diplomatic flights are just one layer. Beneath them lie operations that do not acknowledge themselves even on paper. Airborne signals. Intelligence platforms that orbit conflict zones without ever being added to flight records. Experimental aircraft tested at night over oceans. Long-distance transfers of personnel whose movements must never become public knowledge. These flights are coordinated through encrypted networks far beyond civilian communication channels. People often wonder why something like this needs to exist. Why the secrecy? The truth is simple. Not everything can move publicly. Weapons transfers, counter-terror missions, covert negotiations, intelligence movement, high-value assets, defectors, sensitive materials, emergency diplomatic evacuations, and experimental technologies. None of these can travel on commercial flights, so they travel another way. Quietly, unseen, untouched by public systems. Yet the Black Aviation Network is not only about secrecy, it is about infrastructure. The world is filled with airfields whose official purpose is outdated, but whose real purpose is ongoing. They appear abandoned, but are maintained with precision. Freshly painted runway numbers, modern lighting systems, cleared vegetation, fuel depots stocked in silence. Satellite images often reveal aircraft parked there that do not match local registries. In some regions, locals report hearing jets at night even though no scheduled flights exist. In others, aircraft land without lights, refuel, and depart within minutes. These locations form part of a global chain, stepping stones that allow long-range missions to cross oceans and continents without ever appearing in official logs. Then there is the psychological dimension. The public believes the sky is one of the most monitored parts of the world. It feels open, visible, democratic. Knowing that there is an entire hidden layer above them, a second sky, would fundamentally shift public perception of global mobility. So, the system remains quiet, self-contained, efficient, and invisible. Most aviation hobbyists track planes on public platforms. They see military tankers, commercial flights, training operations. They think they understand the picture, but that picture is a postcard, a simplified, curated fragment of a far larger canvas. Sometimes a ghost aircraft appears briefly on trackers. A transponder glitch, an unidentified altitude, a blank call sign. Screenshots spread online, people speculate, and then the trace disappears, but these are not glitches. They are brief shadows cast by the real network. The Black Aviation Network has existed longer than most people realize. It began during the Cold War, adapted through the Gulf conflicts, expanded during the global war on terror, and continues to evolve today with modern surveillance tools. As detection becomes more advanced, disappearance becomes more sophisticated. The world watches the sky. The Black Aviation Network watches the world. These aircraft move presidents, spies, scientists, negotiators, and technology that will shape the future. They carry classified cargo, humanitarian aid, and sometimes things far more sensitive. They connect places that should not be connected, at times when connection should be impossible. They operate in silence, not because they are illegal, but because they are necessary, and they fly above you. Every night, unseen, untracked, unacknowledged, you look at the sky and see stars. But some of those lights are not stars. Some of them are aircraft moving through a world that is not meant to be public. This is the hidden sky. This is the second layer. This is the Black Aviation Network. And now, you know it exists. We've reached the end of another video, friends. If you like this video, don't forget to like it. We'll learn a lot from the videos I share. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my new videos. See you in the next video.